Hi everyone, my name's Beth Asbury and my pronouns are she, her. I've got short silvery hair and I wear glasses. I'm here in the Beyond the Binary exhibition space because I used to work here at the Pitt Rivers Museum. I was responsible for Beyond the Binary's predecessor project out in Oxford. Out in Oxford was launched in 2017 and it was an LGBTQIA+ trail of all of the university's collections. In my right hand, I'm holding the trail booklet. It's A5 and has a white cover. And in the middle, or towards the top, is the Out in Oxford Trail logo, which was designed for us by a fantastic local youth group called My Normal. It's a big black capital Q with rainbow stripes through the middle. So when we were working on Out in Oxford, there was a story that we really wanted to tell as part of the trail, but we couldn't because at the time there were no objects on display related to that story. But fortunately, a few years ago, since Out in Oxford was launched and before Beyond the Binary came into being, a new run of archaeology display cases was installed on the top floor of the Pitt Rivers Museum. Now, the row of cases, they're called desktop cases by members of staff. They're kind of waist height with a glass top. And at the end of the row, in a triangular shaped case, is a square box about 18 centimetres across by about 6.5 centimetres deep. And it's a hinged wooden box made of a sort of a red-brown coloured wood. Inside the box are some round slots containing 23 copper discs. They're about palm size. They're some medals or medallions. Pitt Rivers, the general Pitt Rivers, after whom the museum is named, owned this box and the medalettes. And the box also contains quite chunky looking metal die, which was used for stamping those discs. Pitt Rivers is sometimes called the father of British archaeology. And one of the things that he was keen on doing was exploring various scientific techniques for archaeological fieldwork. On one side of those metal discs are 6 different symbols related to archaeology. There's a pick, a theodolite, which is a kind of measuring device, a human skull, a vase, an axe and a sword. On the other side of the coin are his name and his postnominals, FRS, for Fellow of the Royal Society, which he was very proud of. So when Pitt Rivers backfilled one of his excavation trenches, when he closed them up, he would have the side of those discs, those copper alloy medallions, stamped with the date that he closed the trench, and he would sort of pop them in so that future excavators would know that he'd been there first and he dug that site already. So what's that got to do with queer history, I'm sure you're wondering? Well, the box and its contents were donated to the museum in 1971 by the General's great-grandsons, Anthony and Michael Pitt Rivers. In March 1954, Michael Pitt Rivers was involved in a very high-profile court case with his cousin, Lord Montague of Beaulieu, and their friend Peter Wildblood, who was a journalist. It was, as I say, a very high-profile court case that got an awful lot of media attention because they were quite well-known figures in British society at that time. And unfortunately, all 3 of them were convicted and sent to prison for homosexuality. However, because of a public backlash against these witch hunts, as they were seen, in America they were known as the Lavender Trials, there was a backlash of public opinion against the vilification, if you like, of homosexuals in the UK. And a few months after the Montague case, as it was known, what was known as the Wolfenden Committee first met. So this was in September 1954. A few years later, in 1957, the Wolfenden Committee recommended the decriminalisation of homosexuality. They stated that homosexuality between consenting adults should be decriminalised, should be legalised. Unfortunately, it wasn't for another 10 years in 1967 that the law was partially changed in England and Wales. But Lord Montagu has made public statements about how proud he is that their court case eventually had a positive impact on the changing of the law for homosexuals in the UK. And what about Michael Pitt Rivers? He married Sonia Brownwell, who was the widow of George Orwell. Unfortunately, their marriage didn't last and they did get divorced, but Michael spent most of his life with his partner, William Grono Davis, I think that's how it's pronounced, and he was an artist. I hope they had a really happy life together.